Buckle up, because you're about to hear a story of betrayal, deception, and the sweetest kind of revenge. I've spent my entire career uncovering lies, exposing secrets, and bringing the truth to light. But I never expected that the biggest liar I'd ever catch would be the woman I trusted most, my own wife. I've always been good at reading people. It's what makes me a damn good investigator. Most people think catching liars is about spotting the obvious signs. Darting eyes, nervous fidgeting, a sudden change in behavior. But real deception? The best kind? It's subtle. It's calculated. It's the lie buried under layers of truth. And Olivia, she was a natural. My wife was always an open book, or at least that's what I thought. We had been together for 12 years, married for 8. Our life was comfortable, predictable in the best way. We had routines, inside jokes, and a rhythm that made me feel like I had finally found something solid in this chaotic world. I spent my days untangling other people's messes, but with Olivia, I never felt the need to question anything. She was my one certainty, until she wasn't. At first, the signs were almost imperceptible. Little things. The kind of things a man with a job like mine should have noticed right away, but I was too blind, too trusting. Olivia had always been affectionate, but recently, her affection felt off. She started kissing me more often. Long, lingering kisses when I walked through the door. Her hands would trace my jaw, her lips brushing against mine like she was savoring something, like she was memorizing it. I should have been grateful, but it didn't feel like passion. It felt like guilt. Then there was the phone. Olivia was never one to be obsessed with her phone. She used it, sure, checking social media, texting her friends, sending me the occasional, "I miss you," when I worked late. But now? Now it was always within arm's reach, always face down on the table, always locked the second she put it down. One night, as we sat on the couch watching some mindless crime show, I glanced over and saw her staring at the screen, lips parted slightly, a ghost of a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. She was texting someone. I didn't ask who. Not yet. Instead, I watched. I waited. A week later, I came home earlier than usual. Olivia wasn't expecting me. I walked into the house, set my keys on the counter, and heard a muffled laugh coming from the living room. Not just any laugh, her real laugh. The one she used when she was completely unguarded. The one I hadn't heard in a while. As I turned the corner, she was sitting on the couch, curled up with her phone in her hands, completely engrossed in whatever was on the screen. "Hey," I said casually, watching as she jumped slightly before turning the phone face down on her lap. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice smooth, practiced. "You're home early." "I got out of a meeting sooner than expected," I said, eyeing the phone. "What's so funny?" "Oh, just a stupid meme," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear. A classic tell. Olivia wasn't a bad liar, but she wasn't good enough to fool me. I wanted to push, to ask to see it, but I didn't. Because the best way to catch a liar is to let them believe they're getting away with it. That night, as she showered, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I reached for her phone. Locked. Not unusual. We both had passwords. But the thing was, Olivia's password had never changed. And now, it didn't work. I stared at the screen, my pulse slow and steady. A changed password meant one thing. She was hiding something. I placed the phone back exactly where I found it, then walked away, my mind working through every possibility. There were 1,000 innocent explanations. Maybe she had changed it because of security concerns. Maybe she had work emails she didn't want me to see. Or maybe I was looking at the beginning of something I didn't want to acknowledge. That night, I held her as she slept, my arm draped over her waist, feeling the rise and fall of her breathing. She was warm, soft against me, and yet, she felt like a stranger. The next few weeks, I started watching more closely. She left for work earlier than usual, stayed out later, brushed off questions with easy, dismissive smiles. Her scent changed. That was the detail that sent a chill down my spine. Olivia had been wearing the same perfume for years, a soft, floral scent that clung to our sheets and lingered on my clothes when she hugged me. But one morning, as I kissed her goodbye, I noticed it. Something different. Something musky. Something that didn't belong to me. I didn't say a word. I just smiled and told her to have a good day. And then I followed her. It wasn't hard. I had a separate car, one I used for work, unremarkable and easy to blend in. I knew her schedule, knew every route she took. She should have gone straight to the office. She didn't. I watched as she took an unfamiliar turn, heading toward a part of town that had nothing to do with her job. She pulled into a parking garage, and I followed at a distance. From my spot near the entrance, I saw her step out of her car, smooth down her blouse, and check her reflection in the side mirror. She looked nervous, excited. Then a man stepped out of another car. Tall, well-dressed, confident. She smiled at him, and he touched her lower back as they walked inside together. I gripped the steering wheel, my jaw tightening, my mind cataloging every detail. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Not yet. Not until I had everything I needed. I drove home in silence, my thoughts dark and methodical. She thought she was being careful, thought I wouldn't notice the little changes, the subtle shifts in behavior. She had no idea who she was dealing with. Olivia may have been a good liar, but I was better. And I wasn't just going to catch her. I was going to destroy her. I had spent years tracking down liars, exposing secrets, and uncovering the kind of truths people paid good money to keep buried. I had built my career on being 2 steps ahead of everyone. And yet, somehow, my own wife thought she could outsmart me. That was almost insulting. I sat in my office, staring at the grainy image on my laptop screen. A security camera feed from the parking garage where Olivia had met him. The image quality wasn't great, but I didn't need clarity to know what I was seeing. Her and another man, his hand resting against her lower back as they walked inside together. A casual touch. Small, almost meaningless. But I knew better. The placement, the ease of it, that wasn't a first-time thing. That was familiarity. That was confidence. That was a man who knew my wife. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. My fingers tapped against the desk, my mind already working through the next steps. There was no confrontation. Not yet. Confrontation gave her control, gave her the chance to lie, to manipulate, to twist the truth into something that sounded reasonable. No, I wasn't going to let her explain. I was going to let her hang herself with her own deception. The first step was simple. Olivia thought she was careful with her phone. She wasn't careful enough. I had cloned her device weeks ago. Standard practice for some of my more sensitive cases. An exact replica of her texts, emails, GPS history, even deleted messages. Everything she did, I saw. Every call, every transaction, every search. At first, it had been uneventful. Grocery lists, group chats with her friends, a few work-related messages. Then, a number with no name. I checked the call logs. At least 3 times a day, sometimes more. Always in short bursts. A 2-minute call at lunch. A quick exchange before she got home. I dug deeper, pulling the metadata from her texts. She had deleted them, but nothing is ever truly gone. And there it was. Same time this weekend? Miss you. Can't wait to see you. I clenched my jaw, my grip tightening on the edge of the desk. It wasn't anger that hit me. Not yet. It was something colder. Something precise. Something that made me dangerous. Tracking someone without them knowing is an art. Most people think it's about hiding in shadows, wearing disguises, tailing cars through back alleys like something out of an old noir film. The truth is much simpler. You don't follow people. You follow patterns. And Olivia had a pattern. Every second weekend, she had a work trip. Not suspicious on the surface. She had taken weekend conferences before. Except these weren't conferences. There were no receipts for hotels booked under her company. No records of flights, meetings, or itineraries. Just a 3-hour drive northwest. A secluded stretch of road leading to a private lake house. I traced the location through her car's built-in GPS history. She had been there at least 7 times in the last 4 months. I pulled satellite images, zooming in on the property. A large house, isolated, surrounded by nothing but trees and water. A perfect hideaway. A perfect place for a secret. I wasn't going to rely on digital breadcrumbs alone. I needed confirmation. Real proof. So, on the next work trip, I followed her. I left long before she did, taking the back roads, keeping my distance. I parked over a mile away from the lake house, hiking through the dense forest until I found the perfect vantage point, an elevated ridge overlooking the property. And then I waited. An hour passed, then two. Finally, a car rolled up the gravel driveway. Olivia stepped out, fixing her hair in the side mirror. She looked excited, anticipation in her movements, like a woman waiting for something she had been craving. Then, another car pulled in behind her, and my chest tightened, because I knew that car. I knew that man. Adam, my best friend, my business partner, the man I had trusted for over a decade. I watched as he climbed out of his car, walking toward Olivia with that same confident ease I had seen in the parking garage. She smiled. He reached for her waist. And then, right there, in the open, in broad daylight, she kissed him. I didn't move, didn't make a sound. I just lifted my camera, adjusted the lens, and clicked. One photo, two, then another, and another, until I had exactly what I needed. The proof. Undeniable. Irrefutable. I lowered the camera, staring at the screen, at the frozen image of my wife, wrapped around the man I used to call my brother. And then, I felt it. Not anger. Not sadness. Not even betrayal. Just clarity. Because now, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I sat in my car outside Adam and Sophia's house, gripping the steering wheel with one hand, my phone in the other. My thumb hovered over her contact. I hadn't spoken to Sophia in over a month, not more than the occasional polite greeting at work events. She had always been warm, kind, the type of woman who remembered birthdays and sent thoughtful messages when someone was going through a tough time. I had never once considered what it would feel like to break someone's world apart. I took a breath and dialed. She answered on the second ring. Ethan? This is a surprise. Her voice was light, unsuspecting. Hey, Sophia, I said, forcing a casual tone. Do you have time for a coffee? There's something I need to talk to you about. Business-related. A pause. Then, of course. Are you okay? I wasn't, but she didn't need to know that. Not yet. I will be, I said. I'll text you the place. I chose a quiet cafe, one with private booths and dim lighting, somewhere people went to have conversations they didn't want overheard. Sophia was already there when I arrived, stirring a tea she had barely touched. She smiled when she saw me, but there was something hesitant in it, a flicker of concern in her green eyes. Hey, she said, setting her spoon down. You sounded serious on the phone. I slid into the seat across from her. It is serious, I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. And I'm going to need you to keep an open mind for the next few minutes. She frowned slightly, sitting up straighter. Ethan, what's going on? I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my photo gallery and turned the phone toward her. The moment she saw it, the image of Olivia and Adam, wrapped in each other's arms, lips pressed together, her face changed. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands trembled slightly as she took the phone from me, swiping through each image, each devastating confirmation. She didn't blink, didn't speak, didn't breathe. Then, slowly, she exhaled, setting the phone down on the table with careful precision, like it was made of glass. When? Her voice was barely above a whisper. For months at least, I said. I've been tracking Olivia's movements. She's been meeting him at a lake house every other weekend. No work trips, just them. Sophia's jaw clenched, her fingers tightening into fists on the table. But still, she didn't cry. Not yet. I leaned forward. I need to know what you want to do about this. She looked at me then, eyes dark and unreadable. What do you mean? I mean we have options, I said, keeping my voice calm, methodical. You can confront him, demand answers, go through the whole miserable cycle of denial, blame, and apologies. You can leave now, walk away, let him keep everything and start fresh. Her lips pressed into a thin line. And what's the other option? I sat back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. Then, I said it. We destroy them. Sophia stared at me. Then, she laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. You mean take them for everything they have? Exactly. She exhaled, running a hand through her hair. You've already thought this through, haven't you? Of course, I said. And I wouldn't have come to you if I wasn't certain you'd want in. She was quiet for a long moment, staring down at the table, tapping her nails against the ceramic cup. And then, something changed. I saw it in her eyes. The grief hardened into determination. The betrayal turned into something colder, something sharper. Tell me what you have in mind, she said. Adam and I had built a thriving private investigation firm together. When we started, we were nothing but two guys with a couple of laptops and a talent for exposing secrets. Now, we had multiple offices, high-end clients, and enough financial security to retire comfortably before 45. And Sophia? She wasn't just a businesswoman. She was the one who handled Adam's finances, the one who managed their investments, tax filings, and legal paperwork. Between the two of us, we knew exactly where to hit them. I've already started transferring assets, I told her. Adam doesn't know it yet, but he's about to lose control of the company. Sophia smirked. And Olivia? She'll find out soon enough that her accounts are frozen. Sophia took a slow sip of her tea, eyes narrowing. This is going to ruin them. That's the idea, I said. The best part about revenge? It isn't rushed. It's precise. Adam thinks he's getting away with it, I continued. He has no idea we're onto him. Neither does Olivia, Sophia murmured, a dangerous glint in her eye. So we let them believe they're winning, I said. For now. Sophia's fingers traced the rim of her cup, thoughtful. And what about confrontation? We can't just drain them dry and walk away without making them feel it. I smiled then. A slow, measured smile. Oh, don't worry, I said. We'll make sure they know exactly what they've lost. She returned my smile, something in her expression shifting. Not just pain, but purpose. All right, she said, leaning forward. Let's do this. We left the cafe that day as something different. Not just two people with broken hearts. Not just two victims of betrayal, but two survivors, two strategists, two co-conspirators. Adam and Olivia had no idea what was coming for them. And by the time they did, it would be too late. The hardest part of revenge isn't the planning. It isn't the execution. It's the waiting. Sophia and I had everything lined up. Every piece set exactly where we needed it. The assets were already shifting, the accounts quietly draining, the legal groundwork in motion. Now, we just had to make sure they never saw it coming. That meant playing our roles perfectly. That meant letting Olivia and Adam feel safe. That meant pretending to lose. I started with myself. I needed Adam to believe I was unraveling, that my mind was too clouded, too distracted, too exhausted to suspect anything. So I let myself break, or at least, I made it look that way. I started showing up to work late, my usual sharp suits replaced with wrinkled shirts and unshaven stubble. I forgot appointments, let emails pile up, and sat in meetings staring blankly at my laptop like I was lost in my own head. When Adam asked if something was wrong, I waved it off. Just a rough patch, man. Work's been draining me. I could see it in his eyes, the flicker of relief, the barely hidden smirk he quickly masked with fake concern. He thought I was crumbling. I let him believe it. I made careless financial mistakes, or at least, that's what Adam thought. I started talking about cash flow issues, mentioning missed payments that didn't exist, muttering about clients backing out when, in reality, everything was running smoother than ever. One afternoon, I accidentally left a bank statement on my desk, one I had expertly forged, showing significant losses. Adam took the bait. He started offering to take more control, subtly suggesting that maybe I should step back for a while, just until I got my head on straight. I agreed, letting him think he was pulling the strings, letting him think I was too weak to fight back. I never forgot dates. Not once in my entire life. But this year, I made sure I did. Olivia had been carefully managing her double life, making sure I never had a reason to look too closely. She still kissed me in the mornings, still sent the occasional, thinking of you, text. But it was mechanical, forced, like she was keeping up appearances rather than actually caring. I used it against her. 3 days before our anniversary, I mentioned that I might have to work late that night. She barely reacted, just nodded and said, "Oh, okay. We can do something another time." That was my final proof. A woman in love doesn't brush off her wedding anniversary. She wasn't hurt. She wasn't even surprised. She had already planned to be with Adam instead. And when the day came, I didn't get her a gift, didn't mention it. I barely spoke to her. I acted like a man who had forgotten his own marriage existed. And the best part? She didn't get mad. She didn't lash out. She didn't even bring it up. That night, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "Don't work too hard." Then she left. I watched from the window as she drove away. Straight to Adam. If I was the crumbling man, Sophia was the faithful, clueless wife. She kept playing her part, making sure Adam believed she was too naive to suspect anything. She packed him lunches, kissed his cheek every morning, sent him texts like, "Miss you. Can't wait to see you tonight." Adam responded, of course, because a man like him needed to maintain control. He needed to feel like he had both women wrapped around his fingers. Sophia told me that, one night, she walked into the room while Adam was texting Olivia. He quickly locked the screen, shoved the phone in his pocket, and smiled at her like nothing had happened. She smiled back, kissed him, then went back to the kitchen and texted me. "He thinks I'm an idiot." It's almost funny. She was right. They both thought they had everything under control. The trick wasn't just to act weak. The trick was to let them win. Just enough. Adam started making more business decisions without consulting me. Olivia started coming home later and later, barely bothering to explain where she had been. They weren't being careful anymore. They weren't covering their tracks, because they thought I was too lost in my own misery to notice. They got sloppy, careless, predictable, and that was exactly what I wanted. I needed to be sure, absolutely sure, that they felt untouchable. So I set a trap. I let it slip to Adam that I was thinking of taking a break from the business, that I might need some time off to clear my head. His reaction? Excitement. Thinly veiled behind fake concern, of course, but excitement nonetheless. He told me, "That's probably a good idea, man. You've been working too hard. Let me take some of the weight off your shoulders." I nodded, rubbing my temples. "Yeah, maybe you're right." The next morning, Olivia made me breakfast. She hadn't done that in months. "Are you feeling okay?" she asked, touching my forehead like she was checking for a fever. I shrugged. "Just tired." She smiled. An easy, relaxed smile. The kind of smile that said, "I've won." The kind of smile that said, "I don't have to try anymore." And that was it. That was the moment I knew they had taken the bait completely. That was the moment I knew we had them. Because nothing is more dangerous than a liar who thinks they've already won. And nothing is more satisfying than watching them fall apart when they realize they never had control to begin with. Adam and Olivia thought they had one. They thought I was spiraling, drowning in my own misery. They thought Sophia was still blind, playing the role of the devoted wife while Adam slipped away whenever he pleased. They thought they were untouchable, and that made them easy to destroy. The first move was financial. If Adam had paid more attention, he would have realized something was off weeks ago. I had spent years building our private investigation firm with him. On paper, we were equal partners, but in reality, I had always been the one managing the business side of things. Adam was good at his job, sure, but he wasn't strategic. He wasn't careful, and that was his downfall. For the last month, I had been quietly shifting control behind the scenes. I changed the legal structure of the company, transferring key assets to a new holding firm, one that Adam had no claim to. I modified contracts, rerouting our most valuable clients under my name alone. By the time I was done, Adam technically still owned half the business, just not the part that made money. Sophia had full access to their shared finances. And just like Adam, Olivia had gotten careless. She had stopped checking things, stopped paying attention. She assumed everything was fine because there was never a reason to think otherwise. Until now, Sophia reached out to her lawyer, a specialist in high-net-worth divorces. She had a simple request: lock down every account in her name. Joint credit cards? Frozen. Investment accounts? Secured. Property titles? Revised. By the time Olivia tried to use their shared account, she would be in for a very unpleasant surprise. And Adam? His financial world was already collapsing, and he didn't even know it yet. I had been patient. I had been thorough, but I wasn't stupid. A plan like this doesn't work unless you cover every angle. That meant making sure Adam had no way to recover once we pulled the trigger. I reached out to a few trusted contacts, clients, lawyers, business partners, people who had worked with us for years. Quietly, I started moving contracts away from Adam, ensuring that once the dust settled, he would have nothing left to hold on to. The best part? I made sure he was the last to know. Sophia's lawyer was efficient, ruthless, and discreet. The case was airtight. Infidelity is rarely enough to cripple someone financially in a divorce, but combined with financial mismanagement, with a clear breach of fiduciary duty in their investments, Adam was finished. Everything in their prenup was suddenly working against him instead of for him. And Olivia? Her name was all over the paper trail of their affair. She wasn't just losing a marriage. She was about to lose everything tied to it. By the time the paperwork was in motion, I knew we were in the final stretch. There was only one thing left to do. Let them walk right into it. We had set the stage. Now, we just had to watch them fall. Everything was in place. The bank accounts were frozen. The assets had been transferred. The legal paperwork was airtight. Now, we just had to get them exactly where we wanted them. And what better way to do it than by giving them the perfect opportunity to celebrate their betrayal? I had never forgotten an anniversary in my life. Not once. But this year, I made sure Olivia thought I had. A week before the date, I casually mentioned that I had been overwhelmed with work and probably wouldn't be able to do anything special this year. I watched her closely as I said it, pretending to check my phone, my tone detached. She barely reacted, just nodded, gave me a small, rehearsed smile, and said, "Oh, that's okay. Maybe we can do something later." That was all the proof I needed. A woman in love doesn't brush off an anniversary. She had already planned to be somewhere else that night. With someone else. With him. Sophia's strategic suggestion. While I was planting the idea that I'd be too busy, Sophia was playing her part perfectly. One evening over dinner, she sighed and said, "We haven't done something just for us in a long time." Adam barely looked up from his phone. "Yeah. I was thinking, maybe we should take a little getaway. Just for a night or two. Somewhere quiet." She leaned forward slightly, watching him the way only a woman who knew her husband too well could. And right on cue, he hesitated. Just for a second. Because she had backed him into a corner. If he said no too quickly, it would look suspicious. But if he said yes, then he'd have to figure out a way to bring Olivia instead. Sophia could almost see the calculations happening behind his eyes. Then, like the predictable fool he was, he forced a smile. "That sounds amazing, babe," he said, reaching for her hand. "I'll take care of everything." Sophia played her role flawlessly, beaming at him like she had no idea what he was really planning. And just like that, the final move was in motion. The night before our cheating spouse's getaway, Sophia and I took a drive. It was just after midnight when we arrived at the lake house. I had been here before, watching from the trees, camera in hand, documenting every time Olivia and Adam had met in secret. But tonight was different. Tonight, we weren't just watching. We were setting the stage for their downfall. Sophia had already secured a legal team that specialized in high-net-worth divorces. All the documents were prepared. All we needed now was the final evidence, something that would make any denial impossible. I walked through the house, planting hidden cameras in every strategic location. The living room, the kitchen, the hallway leading to the bedroom. I even wired the entryway with an audio recorder, just to capture every whispered greeting, every stolen touch. Sophia made sure the legal documents were ready, tucked safely in her bag. We didn't just want to catch them. We wanted to ambush them with the truth. Before we left, I stood in the doorway and took one last look at the house. Tomorrow, they would walk in, laughing, thinking they had the world in their hands, thinking they had one. By the time they realized what was happening, they'd already have lost everything. I turned to Sophia, who met my gaze with steady determination. "No turning back after this," I said. She smiled slightly. "Good," she said. And with that, we walked away, leaving the trap set and waiting. Sophia and I sat in my car a few hundred yards from the lake house, the headlights off, the soft hum of the engine the only sound in the silence between us. From where we were parked, we had the perfect vantage point. The house was warm, glowing, untouched by the storm about to hit. Inside, Olivia and Adam had no idea we were coming. No idea that this wasn't a romantic escape. No idea that every second they spent inside that house was just another step toward their downfall. Sophia exhaled slowly, staring at the house. You ready? I glanced at the folder sitting on the dashboard. Thick, heavy with proof. I've been ready for months, I said. We got out of the car and walked toward the fire we were about to set. The moment we stepped through the front door, the reaction was instantaneous. Olivia gasped, practically jumping away from Adam, as if she could still pretend this was innocent. Adam, ever the smooth talker, went completely still, just for a second. Then, as if flipping a switch, he forced a casual smirk. Ethan, Sophia, he said, raising his glass. Didn't know you were coming. We, just got here ourselves. A bold lie. Sophia and I had watched them pull in 2 hours ago. The wine was already poured. The table set for two. Olivia's shoes were kicked off in the corner, her coat draped over the couch like she had made herself at home. The sight of it, the ease of their routine, might have sent a weaker man into a fit of rage. But I wasn't here to yell. I was here to bury them. I stepped forward, slow, controlled, keeping my voice level. I bet you're wondering why we're here. Olivia opened her mouth, searching for an excuse. But before she could get a single word out, I held up my hand. Don't, I said. Then, I pulled the folder from under my arm and tossed it onto the dining table. Because that, I continued, is every reason you never get to lie to us again. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, cautiously, Adam reached for the folder and flipped it open. His expression didn't change. Not at first. But I saw the exact moment the realization hit him. Because the first page? A full breakdown of his frozen assets. The second? Evidence of his affair with Olivia. Time-stamped photos, bank statements, private messages he thought had been erased. And the third? A termination notice from our firm, signed and dated, effective immediately. Adam's face paled, his jaw tightening. He flipped through the pages faster now, his breathing shallow. What is this? Olivia stammered, peering over his shoulder. Sophia finally spoke, her voice calm and razor-sharp. It's everything we've been working on while you two were sneaking around, she said. We know everything. And now? You have nothing. Adam turned to me, his mask of arrogance crumbling. You can't fire me, he said, shaking his head. I own half the company. I let him choke on those words for a moment before I smiled. Not anymore, I said. His hands tightened into fists. I restructured the business months ago. I cut in. Legally, you don't own anything. The contracts have been moved, the clients redirected. You're locked out of every account. Adam sputtered, looking to Olivia for support, but she was too busy staring at the papers, her fingers trembling as she flipped through the evidence of her betrayal. You had no right, she whispered, barely able to get the words out. I laughed, actually laughed. No right? I echoed. You were cheating on me with my best friend, Olivia, and you think I had no right? She shook her head, tears forming, but I had no sympathy left to give. You made your choice, I said coldly. Now you get to live with it. Sophia stepped forward, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor like the sound of a judge's gavel sealing a verdict. You know what the best part is? She asked. Adam turned to her, eyes dark, still trying to hold on to his last shred of control. Sophia smiled. A slow, knowing smile. I just filed for divorce, she said. And thanks to the prenup you were so proud of, you walk away with exactly nothing. Adam went rigid. That's not, he swallowed hard. That can't be. Oh, but it is, she cut in smoothly. Every lawyer I've spoken to agrees. She glanced at Olivia, giving her a look of mock sympathy. And since you gave up your job to support Adam, I'd start looking for a new one, she added. Because that joint account you two were so fond of? She let the silence linger before delivering the final dagger. It's empty. It was almost disappointing how easy it was. Adam's arrogance dissolved into panic. Olivia's calm demeanor shattered into raw disbelief. They had spent months, maybe longer, building this secret world where they thought they had all the power. And in a matter of minutes, we had ripped it away from them. I let them sit in it. Let them absorb the reality of their downfall. Then, finally, I turned to Sophia. You ready to go? I asked. She smiled. More than ready. And without another word, without a single look back, we walked out the door, leaving Olivia and Adam alone in the ruins of their own betrayal. The silence in the lake house was deafening. Adam and Olivia stood frozen, their faces pale, their bodies stiff as if their minds were still trying to catch up with reality. Everything they thought they had? Gone. Their money, their security, their future together, shattered in a single night. Olivia was the first to break. She turned to me, her eyes wide with desperation. Ethan, please, she whispered. We can fix this. I tilted my head slightly, watching her like she was some kind of rare specimen, one I had no interest in studying any longer. Fix this? I echoed, letting the words roll off my tongue like they were something foreign. You mean the way you fixed our marriage? The way you fixed your loyalty? She shook her head quickly, stepping closer, her voice cracking. It wasn't like that. I was confused. I held up a hand. Stop, I said, my voice calm, almost amused. She flinched, because she could see it now, the complete and utter lack of care in my eyes. She wasn't pleading with the husband she once knew. She was pleading with a man who no longer saw her as anything more than a bad investment. And I was done making bad investments. Olivia's breathing was uneven, her hands trembling. She turned toward Sophia now, eyes darting between us like she was putting together a puzzle far too late. Wait, she whispered, swallowing hard. How long have you two been? Sophia smirked, taking one deliberate step closer to me. Adam stiffened beside Olivia, his jaw clenching. Sophia, he said sharply, his voice laced with warning. Tell me you're not serious. Sophia ignored him. Instead, she turned to me and kissed me. Not just any kiss. A slow, knowing, deliberate kiss. One designed to destroy them completely. When she pulled away, she looked back at Olivia and Adam, her expression almost pitying. Almost. Oh, come on, she said, her voice light, amused. Did you really think we'd spend months working together and not notice what was right in front of us? Olivia gasped, covering her mouth with one hand, her body physically recoiling like she had been the one betrayed. Adam, on the other hand, he looked ready to tear the entire house apart. You two deserve each other, Adam spat, his hands clenched into fists. Sophia let out a soft laugh. No, see, that's where you're wrong, she said. Because unlike you, Ethan and I actually respect each other. Funny how that works. Olivia turned back to me, tears forming in her eyes now, and for a moment, I could see the pure panic setting in. She had thought Adam was her safety net, but now, she was tied to a man who had nothing left. Ethan, please, she tried again. I made a mistake. I just smiled. Not cruelly, not angrily, just calmly, like someone who had already moved on. And that destroyed her more than anything else ever could. I turned to Sophia, who was already gathering her purse, her coat, moving like she hadn't just set fire to an entire life. You ready? I asked. She smiled. More than ready. We turned, walking to the door, leaving our former spouses frozen in their own misery. But before I stepped outside, I glanced back one last time. Olivia? I said, my voice casual. She blinked at me, eyes still wet. Why, yeah. I smirked. Don't wait up. And with that, Sophia and I walked out of the wreckage we left behind, hand in hand. Not as victims of betrayal, but as survivors who had already won. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Ethan and Sophia were justified in their actions, or did they take it too far? If you like this story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.